Hey, welcome everyone to Plant Profits. I'm your host, Vern Davis, and I love that you guys have joined me here today. I have a tremendous guest. She is the CEO and co-founder of Miss Grass, an online shop for all things cannabis and CBD. And she was once a bud tender, so she knows it from all angles. My guest today, the CEO and co-founder of Miss Grass, Kate Miller. Kate, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. I tell you, there's a lot of love to chat about today, but I just to start, I mean, Miss Grass is a brand. It's a brand in a very crowded, cluttered, unorganized space called cannabis and CBD.
Emphasize on the unorganized. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that, right? Let's put the emphasis there. But you got real brand building experience from, before all of this cannabis stuff, with top global brands, some really cool, big, major, important brands to consumers, McLaurin, Diageo. We have that in common. I worked at Diageo. Red Bull, and Red Bull's been a client for many years. So look, is it, comparing building Miss Grass to supporting and help building those other brands, that's a different thing, and I've heard that story many times in the cannabis space. Give me some of the contrasts, some of the things that you see are different or more intensified.
Yeah. Well, to be honest,
Yeah.
when I got into the cannabis space back in 2017, I looked at my experience working with brands, not just CPG brands, such as the brands that you name, but also working with incredible entertainment properties. Prior to Miss Grass, I worked at a company called Broadway Video, which was a New York-based company owned by Lauren Michaels, who's the creator and producer of Saturday Night Live, Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon, etc. So even thinking of, Saturday Night Live, for instance, as a brand, brand, and just what that brand, how valuable that brand IP is, and the ability for us to monetize that across licensing deals throughout the world, local formats throughout the world, licensing it to Tosh and do a coffee table book, doing merch collections, etc. To create valuable brand IP, whether it be an entertainment property, whether it be the Red Bulls of the world or the Diageo brands that they own in their portfolio.
Right.
Ultimately, excuse me, I saw that looking into the cannabis space, I saw that that's where this industry is going. It is a CPG industry like any other industry. And ultimately, upon maturity, brands and really valuable brand IP will drive long-term value in this space. So that has always been our play from day one, is let's create a really valuable brand that is catering authentically to an extremely underserved demographic. And let's cater authentically to that. Let's build brand loyalty, not just within one state, but a community across the entire world. And as now these states are turning on, we can offer our THC product offering in the states that we've already built brand loyalty and a community base there.
Right. No, you're exactly right. And you started the business the right way, in my opinion, is thinking about building brand, long-term strategy. You're going to build equity, and that's where the value is going to come, and that's where the opportunities come in the journey. You created Miss Grass. What was the experiences in your life that you really, besides the brand opportunity, that had to be a huge push for you, but what are the opportunities in your life that you thought this was a good idea and you could serve the demographic you wanted to serve and accomplish the things that you thought are important? Tell me about that.
Yeah, Miss Grass, when I ultimately decided to lean in and make it a full-time opportunity, it was the perfect intersection of a concept and an industry and a brand that I was so personally passionate about. I love weed. I've always loved weed, and I'll get to that. Meets the business opportunity. I could finally, at that time in 2017, when I, left my job in New York in the entertainment space, to move back out to Los Angeles and pursue Miss Grass full time, it finally felt to be the right time. Maybe I was a little early now looking back, but it did finally feel like it was the perfect intersection of business opportunity meets my passion. From a personal side, and I'll speak a little bit to kind of, your question of my own life, what my journey to get me to Miss Grass. I'm a Jersey girl, born and raised. Again, have always loved weed. So growing up, from the very first blunt I smoked, it was, for me, I always preferred weed over alcohol. I was always that friend who had it, rolled it, you could get it from me. My brother, who was a year older than me, was arrested for cannabis distribution and manufacturing his senior year of high school. I was a junior year in the same high school.
Okay.
So that moment was a take a step back aha moment for me of really double clicking into understanding this plant and its history much more than I had ever even thought of prior to that. Fast forward, I graduated high school. I moved out to California to attend college, and California had a medical program at the time. So seeing what my brother had gone through and how cannabis was portrayed in, Jersey and beyond, moving out to California where it was integrated into Cali culture, and walk into a medical dispensary and have access to a plethora of products and form factors. I was just blown away. So I decided, got to get into the industry again, way too early. This is 2007. So my junior year of college, I worked as a bud tender at a medical cannabis dispensary in downtown Los Angeles. That ultimately is what planted the seed that Miss Grass that ultimately, came to be a decade later. But I bought the URL on GoDaddy then, missgrass.com.
Really? So it hit you then?
It hit me then.
Almost 8-9 years before.
A decade
reality.
Before.
Yeah. A decade before it hit you that I'm going to own this because one day this may be useful in my journey.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie. I was that friend who had high thoughts and would buy GoDaddy URLs thinking that they would be valuable, and they were growing cobwebs on it. But hopefully Miss Grass is one that I'll look back on and be like, that was a good grab at that time. But yeah, the seed was planted then, especially at that time. There wasn't a brand that authentically catered to myself or the many people in my life who were consuming this plant a bit more, intentionally.
Yeah.
I would go to work. I would work at the dispensary. We were selling a bunch of shake. We learned how to roll cross blunts at work. Everything really leaned into, especially at that time, the stoner bro stigma that we all know so well associated with this plant.
Right.
So I felt then, and I still feel now, that there, needs to be a brand that's authentically catering to a specific demographic of conscious consumers.
Yeah. You've affiliated yourself in the communities that you sell the product with Women's Prisons Association, with National Bailout, the wonderful Last Prisoner Project that people seem to gravitate to, and just many others, Trans Lifeline, et cetera. And how does your brand interact in these relationships? How does that fit?
So a number of different ways. One, cannabis equity and supporting cannabis equity has been core to Miss Grass's DNA from day one. So we've integrated that into the growth of our business, whether that be on our online magazine. We have a number of different content pieces written and amplifying stories of people who have been impacted the most by cannabis's prohibition, and making sure we're amplifying their stories, equipping consumers with the resources and education they need to understand this history, so that when they're walking into a dispensary or when they're deciding to choose what product or brand to support, they're doing so with that in mind. They can vote with their dollars, they can support an equitable industry, and those ultimately who built this industry, who might not have a seat at the table today.
Yeah.
So that's one from an educational side. Two, you mentioned a ton of different organizations, incredible organizations who are on the ground doing the work.
Absolutely. Yes.
We've partnered with a number of them, whether it be ongoing or kind of one-off partnerships to support from monetary donations, amplifying the work that they're doing. Women's Prison Association is an incredible organization that you just referenced. They're run by and in support of women who have been incarcerated, many of which incarcerated for nonviolent cannabis crimes.
Right.
They also work with constituents beyond just cannabis. We've raised now, over, about $15,000 for the organization to support things from reentry programs to support access to health care, access to career opportunities.
Right.
So that's just one example of a partnership that we've done. We've tied it to different events so that we can also, beyond, just writing a check, we can make sure that we're also leveraging our brand platforms. We have over 100,000 email subscribers. We have a social following on Instagram, about 85 or 87,000 followers. Just making sure that we're also pushing out and amplifying the message so that, again, like, we can activate this really powerful community to also support these incredible organizations.
I love the fact that you have purpose, and that's going to really help you down the road as you continue going through this. Obviously, to build a brand and its awareness, and these things will be naturally attached to Miss Grass, and that is a wonderful mission. Look, we're going to take a quick break, Kate, and we'll be right back. And we're going to dive into more of Miss Grass and what's really going on there, and actually building this wonderful product and beautiful brand. I'm Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits, and I want to thank all of you for joining us here today on Plant Profits. Plant Profits is brought to you by Produce Global, my company. And I'm really enjoying this chat with Kate Miller, who is the CEO and co-founder of a wonderful brand, Miss Grass. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Vern Davis. I am your host of Plant Profits, and Plant Profits is brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today, we're having a wonderful chat, is Kate Miller. And Kate is the CEO and co-founder of Miss Grass. Miss Grass is a wonderful brand. Kate, you're building this brand. You've been at it for, it's going to be 5 years or so, hard, moving forward. What are some of the challenges that you face that you didn't anticipate? And you're a veteran brand builder. So I think this will be enlightening.
How much time do I have?
Take your time.
Well, honestly, there's something that I feel as an operator in this space that others in other more established industries just don't really need to factor into their decision making as much, which is timing. There's things that are out of our control when it comes to, federal reform, when that banking act is going to pass, when, marketing restrictions are going to open up for this space. Right. A lot of building this brand has been trying to also play to or figure out timing of when some of new states are going to turn on. So that's definitely been a challenge to navigate the unknown. And it definitely, I've made some bets of when things will turn on or when, Safe Banking Act will pass. And I've been wrong more times than I've been right. So
well, that's a big one, and I'm sure that's a big one. And the point of your conversation there is that you're saying is that there's just so much more that you just cannot control that is so vitally important to what happens next in your business. And you brought up the Safe Banking Act. It's the elephant in the room. We got to talk about it. So many people believed it was going to happen, and they've been told. I mean, you guys were told it was going to happen, right? And people that are actually voting on this, told you this thing was going to happen. And my concern is that we seem to be in a fog. We come out, it didn't happen. Here's the reality of the world we live in. The excitement seems to be the new markets that are open. Connecticut popped, others are coming. Jersey's, relatively new, and you got Missouri, you got Maryland, these other things are going to happen. But that seems to be the excitement. And there's so many other pressures that are happening that could work against an entrepreneur like yourself. How are you feeling about 2023?
I run optimistic. So, despite some of these things that really would have been transformational for this industry as a whole, if, once they do pass, despite them not going through at the end of last year. And I think many people were relying on that and also felt it was a sure thing. Despite that, you named a bunch of incredible states that are turning on and have really strong markets. This industry today is a massive industry with such great potential. We're in 5 states right now, active, operational, many of which are some of the newer ones. We launched.
What are they? Where are you now? What are the 5
We're in
that you're active?
California, Nevada, Illinois, Massachusetts, and New Jersey.
Okay.
So we're in 5 markets. We're turning on more. The next one will go in March. So there's still a lot of, wearing my entrepreneur hat, there's still so much that we can be heads down, massive growth opportunity ahead of what is turned on right now is an opportunity for us to enter and continue to expand distribution, expand our product offering. There's a lot that we can do, and I try to focus on that, and some of the things that are out of our control, I can only hope and do our part to support reform, but there is a lot out of our control.
No, it is, and it's so very important. It just makes things go slower than it could be.
Yeah, for sure.
How you're approaching the CBD portion of your portfolio.
So I think when we kicked off this podcast, you read, I would imagine, quite an old company blurb, because the way that we started Miss Grass, we did not have our own product. So when we launched in January of 2018, we started as a contextual commerce platform with the main intention of build, scale a community across the entire country and even around the world, create brand loyalty, capture a ton of data that ultimately we use to inform what became the Miss Grass product line, which wasn't until close to 3 years into the business. When we launched our first product, it was on the THC side of the business. The CBD marketplace was an offering that we had pre-Miss Grass product. We do have today a version of our hero SKU, which is Miss Grass Minis. They're packs of mini pre-roll joints. They come with a matchbox. We have those on the THC side as well as on the CBD side.
Yeah. I saw it on your site. Right. I saw that on your site. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. The effect of in the industry now, what's happening with the Delta products, right? Delta 8 and 9. And the vast availability of it everywhere, all over the United States, right? I live here in Texas, and it's not even decriminalized in Texas, THC, and the hemp version, the Delta products are everywhere. I live in Austin; it's everywhere. So, how's that affecting what you do? Is there a strategy for you to participate? I mean, how are you looking at that part of the business?
It's a great question. Honestly, something that I'm surprised not more people are talking about in our space.
Yeah.
How Delta 8 and the cannabinoids that are extracted from the hemp plant is federally legal. You can sell it outside of a legal dispensary. You can sell it outside of a legal state. It's everywhere. And the reason I'm very surprised, particularly from the timeliness of that conversation, that no one is really having it, at least in the circles that I run around, is the hemp bill is up for review this year. And the hemp bill, which passed in 2018, the bill that legalized federally hemp and all of its derivatives and anything that can be extracted from and derived from the hemp plant, which is essentially the cannabis plant, but has below 0.3% THC.
Right.
Now, well, when there's a will, there's a way. That's one thing I learned. Now, people have figured out that you can extract from hemp and with a conversion process, convert it to a psycho where there's enough in there that it can convert to a psychoactive, cannabinoid. And that's, I think, what becomes quite dangerous for vulnerable consumers and uneducated consumers when they can just walk into a bodega and not know if that product is tested, not know if it is tested, like how much they're actually consuming. So I do think there needs to be a bit more reform and regulation around the hemp bill.
Yeah. And the other part of my question was, how are you looking at that as part of your strategy, as to participate? Because the chances are nothing's really going to happen to the bill.
Again, I run optimistic. Yes and no. For us, our consumer base may be taking a bath with a CBD bath bomb, but she has a joint in her mouth. Like our consumer base wants to consume, for the most part, THC, and they're looking to get high. They're looking to integrate cannabis into their life for a number of different reasons, whether it be sleep or pain, or I'm just trying to have a good time with my girlfriends. So, we're definitely catering our products to who our community is, and our community are like weed-loving women. That's one thing. On the hemp side, the way that we're viewing it at Miss Grass is it's a category and a potential product offering that we can have and ship in the mail. We can ship to all 50 states. We can cater to and provide a product offering to consumers who are loyal Miss Grass community members who may not have access to our products on the THC side. So we'll always have an offering around that, whether it be hemp or, cannabis accessory and ancillary product offering that we're coming out with this year. That will be important just from a reach and accessibility perspective to our community.
Good. No, that's great. I tell you what, Kate, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back, and we'll talk more about some of the bright spots and other complexities in your business at Mrs. Grass. And I think this, Miss Grass, I think this amazing product, it's beautiful. You get everyone that's listening, go on the website, check it out, order it, do whatever you can to support this brand. I'm Vern Davis. I'm your host of Plant Profits. Plant Profits is brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today is Kate Miller. She is the CEO and co-founder of Miss Grass. I'll see you on the other side. Hey, welcome back to Plant Profits. I'm Vern Davis. I am your host. Plant Profits is brought to you by Produce Global. My guest today is Kate Miller, and Kate is the co-founder and CEO of Miss Grass. And Kate, look, you're doing a wonderful job. What's your outlook for 2023? How many more markets are you seeing your business expanding into?
It's a great question. So we're in 5 states right now.
Right.
We have a deal locked and loaded, and we're moving forward with launching our 6th state, which should launch in March.
Okay.
We're in talks with several others. I would imagine between, close to 5 to 7 new markets that will open up this year.
Okay. Big year for you.
Last year. Yes.
Yeah. Big year for you. That's going to put you at 10 to 12 markets when we celebrate 2024. That's great. That's awesome. You're moving forward and things are going well. What are some of the business challenges, the fundamental things to open a new market that, since you've done recently several, that you really think the outlook may be brighter and easier or smoother, if we could say, in opening these new markets?
Yeah, well, because we've done now 5, we built an internal playbook that's a bit of a rinse and repeat. Obviously, every market has its own nuances, and
it's a different country.
It's a different country. It has different regulations. The market dynamics are different in terms of how many operators exist. Is there, excess biomass, meaning is price compression a big factor in that space thus far? Is it overcrowded with number of brands that play in our categories, et cetera? So every market takes a bit of a nuanced approach given some of those dynamics that I just mentioned. But for the most part, it is a rinse and a repeat playbook that we have from pre-launch 2 months before we go live in a market. We start engaging the community that we've already built in that market, which those type of community metrics and data we use as one data input to decide whether state X is the state that we even want to launch Miss Grass. So we'll start engaging them. We'll start sending them higher frequency of emails. We'll start engaging with local talent and brands to also build the community further in that market. We'll launch, we'll activate that community and drive them to ultimately convert from day one for us. And then we have a playbook that goes, out post-launch as well. So that's something that, we'll take to every single market. We look at markets not only from where we have our community, but also where the market is really important to us. So we just launched New Jersey. New Jersey is a great example of a market with the dynamics that really support a brand such as Miss Grass. If you have the opportunity to get in, there's right now a few operators that are controlling the majority of the supply chain in California, so you kind of have to hold hands with one of them. At least right now, the market is changing dramatically as new licenses are coming online as we speak, but you really do need to hold hands with them, at least right now, to provide access to your product in that market. But getting in now, which is when we did, allowed us to scale that market massively, because there's very few products and brands in the New Jersey market. So that's a good kind of dynamic that we look for. It's a great
landscape for you.
Versus California or Michigan right now. There's thousands of brands. There's so much excess biomass in the market. There's massive price compression happening. There's a couple of those market dynamics that really do, impact our ability to get into the state, but also our appetite and excitement to get into the space.
No, that's great. I was going to ask you that, and I think it's a good question. Is you got a market of such a mature market like California, right, in your portfolio of markets, and the dynamics in California is so different than New Jersey, right? And what kind of pressure and strain does that put on your community of teams, right? The people that work for you. What kind of strain does that put on you to manage a big market like California, and you have all these relationships with MSOs and other dispensary brands to make it all pop for Miss Grass?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it, like each state is almost its own country. So each state, especially a California versus a New Jersey, is quite different. California is the most mature market in the world, I would say. And it's important to us in all the states that we operate, we have local on the ground Miss Grass members who are really almost like GMs of their respective markets. They are experts of the market. They have the relationships with the key stakeholders in that market who are really making an impact. The California market is going through a massive evolution as we speak, and it's frankly quite sad. From one side, it just feels it was on the highest of a high right before COVID, and now you're hearing every week of operators going out of business. Excise tax is now falling on retailers, which will only I think we're going to hear more about that in the coming weeks. It just I feel inherently very sad for what's happening in the California market. From our play in California being a brand play, I do think the brands who can sustain this time and get through this period in California ultimately are just going to come out stronger. And I think what we're realizing is margins shrink along the supply chain because there's so much excess biomass in that market.
That's right.
Brands are really what's driving the
That's right.
value and will drive the value in that market.
Yes, your brand is so associated with the plant and the quality of what someone that you put in your product is paramount to anything, right? To continue to create a brand that creates value. And then you have competitors who are really building brands, maybe in edibles or in other where you can take a less quality base of product to make a fine tasting edible, right? And it just seems like when you have all this price compression on the grass, right, that you would see more folks, and I mean, the question is, are you seeing more folks getting, even like yourself, thinking about getting into different consumer deliverables to continue to create value, especially in these difficult markets like California?
Yeah, I mean, we built our brand to be really valuable brand IP that can expand beyond a specific form factor.
Yeah.
Pre-rolls and flower are still in every single market, the lion's share of the market.
It is, you're right.
It is.
Yeah.
But to your point, there's definitely other categories that are growing, but also as you think of some of these hurdles and that each market upon maturity has, it's a category that feels, more ownable as a brand. It's a category that, given excess biomass in every market upon maturity, giving massive price compression, it's just you can create a product that really does combat some of those hurdles. So yeah, long way of saying that Miss Grass is currently, excuse me, developing product beyond just pre-rolls and flower.
See, I got some news out of you, Kate. That's great.
You heard it here first.
Yeah, you heard it on Plant Profits here first. So, when we first got into cannabis, right, it was everybody wanted to get in it. I know in my business, I have consumer products, search business, and everybody that I knew wanted to go. Now, the legal business has been out there. It's been there long enough that people are washing in and out, right? People are finding that, wow, this is absolutely insane. I don't want to ever touch this again. I'm out for good. And then there are people says, this is crazy and I love it. And are you finding from a talent perspective, or are you finding it harder now to get talent that wants to be in, but easier to get talent that has experience?
Yeah, the talent pool as it relates to who's interested in coming into the cannabis space from other industries, or who has already entered the space, and there's opportunity to, they're looking for jobs staying within the industry, has definitely evolved dramatically since I got into the space in 2017. To your point, it definitely takes a certain person, and that has a varying degree of risk appetite, given some of the unknown that this industry has from a federal legality perspective. But yeah, I mean, the caliber of talent is really strong, and we're seeing that we can take two from big alcohol, big CPG, with startup experience too, of some talent that we've recently onboarded at Miss Grass that in 2017 they wouldn't even entertain having a conversation with me.
Absolutely. No, it's quite interesting how that is evolving, and we're definitely seeing it. But there's as a CEO of a brand like yours, I'm sure one of your qualities have to be storytelling. You have to be a good storyteller. And that is very attractive to folks, right? When they're looking into a business. And I always tell, my clients, find folks that you want on the team, but they can become really good storytellers, because that's what helped you create the value and build the platform, is those folks that work with you that do that. So I think that's great. Yeah, that talent thing is changing. And you can find experience now. You can find those, you can professionalize your organization in places you want to professionalize it with talent that has experience.
Mm-hmm.
When you first got into it, you could professionalize it, but they didn't have experience.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that is a huge difference now. And I think that's a big opportunity for folks who wants to continue and continue to take on. So this has been tremendous. Love the time we spent together here. I can't let you go without having you, Kate, make some predictions about, as you see the industry, right, over the next year. And then sometime later, we'll come back and we'll check our list. Okay.
Well, I know not to make a prediction on some of the larger things like federal legalization. I feel like I've been saying 3 to 5 years every year for the past years.
That's right.
But I think this year is going to be transformational for cannabis normalization. It'll be the year that I predict that more states will be recreationally legal than not. Mm-hmm. So it'll, tilt tilt more on mm-hmm. than not on. Mm-hmm. In addition, I think this is going to be a breakout year for brands. To date, at least historically, so much capital and excitement has been poured on more of the supply chain assets in this space. A lot of M&A has happened for cultivation facilities, manufacturing, being vertical, and owning retail. And I do feel this is the year for brands to break out and really show that the value in this space as it matures is going to be in owning a really valuable brand IP that authentically caters to a specific consumer vertical.
I'm cheering for that one. I'm cheering for that, because we need the energy needs to go there. The money needs to go there. Mm-hmm. And I am cheering for that. And that'll be great for Ms. Grass, I'm sure.
I hope. Thank you.
That's great. I want to thank all of you for joining us on Plant Profits. And I want to thank my guest today, Kate Miller, CEO and co-founder of Ms. Grass. And Kate, you're always welcome back, and want you back. Make more news. We got one out of you. That's good.
Vern, thank you so much.
No, it's tremendous. And I want to thank our listening audience for joining. And you can download episodes of Plant Profits by going to cannabisradio.com. You can get it anywhere you get a podcast: Apple, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon, all major podcast portals. We are there. Download, listen, and look for this. Look for the Miss Grass episode, and I'm sure you will. And thank you very much for that. And also follow Produce Global, my company, and really take a look at how we're helping build companies in the space. Take a look at how we're helping change people's lives. And that's protisglobal.com. That's PROTIS global.com. Until next time, cheers. I'm Vern Davis, your host of Plant Profits. We'll see you next time. Thank you.